Hey, coaches. There's this great story that I'd like to share to set up our work here with action planning and accountability, but it's one of those stories that's probably a bit too good to be true. We would probably want to say it's apocryphal, but it's still a very good story to illustrate one of the main points of this video. So, way back in the day, an unknown decade, Toyota engineers went to an American automotive plant where cars are being made. I don't know the words for it, but the engineers were being given a tour in the American factory. They were watching all the different parts of the assembly line, the different jobs, the different functions of the assembly line, and they're having a good conversation around how things went. As they got to the end of the tour and saw the near completion of each of the cars that were being produced, there was this extra function that the Toyota engineers were not aware of. There was this individual that had a mallet, and he was hammering the door a little bit. The Japanese engineers asked, what is that job? We don't have anyone with that kind of job in our plants, in our factories. And the American engineers said, well, that individual is there to make sure the door fits perfectly. So when it comes through, they'll tap on the door, they'll hit the door a little bit to just make sure it's a perfect fit. Why? So how do you guys do that? And so the story goes, the Japanese automakers and the Toyota Japanese automakers, they kind of laughed and said, we don't have that job because we design it perfect from the beginning, which sounds a bit more like an ad for Toyota than anything else. But there is some reality to the sense of Toyota looking at the root causes and to look at the beginning results rather than the end results for creating solutions. There's a model of inquiry called the 5 Whys from Toyota, and they use this in order to better understand what are the root causes. What is the problem behind the problem behind the problem behind the problem behind the problem? And as a coach, anytime we step into a coaching session, we need to go in with those type of eyes, those type of ears. We need to be very aware that whatever's presenting with a client, whatever they are bringing to the table as their initial agenda is not really the problem. Because if we were to ask them, why is this happening? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Then we would get further and further and further down to some root causes. Now, in coaching, it's not usually a good practice to just ask why questions and to just do the raw root cause analysis, though the 5 Whys can be an exercise that a coach and a client can use as part of a coaching session to ask those questions intentionally with permission. That's fine. But I'm talking more about the mindset here. Are we in the business of coaching to use our mallet and to hit the door as it's coming through, as the person's got this meeting tomorrow, as they have this situation that has just recently come up, we want to fix? Or are we co-designing systems? Are we co-designing learning? Are we co-designing a developing identity and awareness? As a coach, our real work is in the transformational nature of co-designer. There are 2 core parts of the way we distinguish between a lower performing coach and a middle to higher performing coach from the ICF's perspective. Those 2 indicators are that the coach connects solutions to the broader context. Anything that helps solve a problem today or this week, the coach is going to offer some questions that help broaden the scope of that solution. How might you apply what you've learned here and what you're going to do here to other areas of your life? 2 months ago, you had this situation come up. What made the action and planning around today's agenda so easy in comparison to that one? What has helped you grow through this experience? How do you want to carry that growth forward to similar situations that come up in the future? This cross-pollination is a very important part of action planning, something that oftentimes when we think of action planning, we're thinking about just ending the session, but there is value in taking a little bit of extra time, maybe one, maybe two questions to say, how does what you've done here and what you will go on to do impact other areas of your life? And the second thing, the second indicator, is that the coach asks questions that go beyond, that help go beyond the presenting problem. Because we know that the presenting problem is only a symptom most of the time, especially early on in a coaching relationship, especially with situations that are raw and new to the client. We are only hearing the surface agenda, the surface level agreement. That is why asking questions about the potential for transformation, the significance of this agenda is so important. Why, out of anything they could talk about, are they choosing this topic? So the coach should deepen the agenda setting and the action planning so that whatever actions that are going to come up, we get a sense of how these apply to the deeper root causes. If you were to take this action, how would it help you avoid situations like this from coming up in the future? Or how might we adjust or learn from the action you're taking and apply it to the future? What can you take from what you've learned and what you're doing here and use it to prevent this from happening or to cause this to happen more naturally in the future? So we want to ask questions that go beyond just the presenting problem in the action planning and accountability as well. So we do that in the agenda setting, do some of that in the action planning and accountability. As we wrap up here, just one more word of encouragement. In your sessions this week, take some time to consider, of course, in your agenda setting, but also in the way you wrap up a session. Am I focused on using the mallet, or am I being a co-designer, helping this person grow beyond just this one problem and looking at how this is changing their life as a whole? That's where we are going in the long run with our coaching. Thank you so much for coaching and for stretching yourself as you continue to grow.